And so,
Hola.
hi everyone.
Good morning,
Welcome,
good
ladies.
afternoon, and good night.
Yeah, what? We were talking at the same time.
I was just saying good morning, good afternoon, or good night, whatever anybody is listening to. Be like hello.
Got to DIY. Oh, baby, you know why. Well, if you got the time, I'm gonna give it a try. But before you start, we got advice for you all. If you got to hammer, then you got to saw. Baby, please don't look out that wall. Don't look out that wall. Please do not look out that wall. Really bad idea. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, guten Tag, as they say. Welcome again to another episode of Don't Knock Out That Wall.
Don't knock out that wall. Guys, I'm pretty excited. So today we have finally we got a good like start to the whole podcast process today.
Yeah, we're officially on Spotify and iTunes as of today.
As
And
of today.
Facebook page is live and kicking. I think our wives liked it, so that's where you start, right?
Exactly. I invited a lot of people to follow our
You
Facebook
did?
page
Okay, great.
today.
Yeah.
Yeah, and by the way, I made an ad on Facebook. Um,
Oh, you made an ad. Okay. Is
yeah,
that what?
I made an ad. The last I saw was, I mean, it was of our preview.
Okay.
Um, last I saw, it was still pending. And now I don't know how to get back to see the ad that was sent out.
Is it? Where's it supposed to pop up? Like on your just your Facebook feed or something? I've never done one of
Yeah,
those.
it's sent out to be on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay, sweet. Instagram, Instagram.
Yeah, right. Ad center ads.
I'll be keeping an eye out for it for sure. I don't see
I don't
anything
know.
yet,
Anyway, it's out there.
but yeah.
It's at least ready to be reviewed by the Facebook gods.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it gets approved or not, I don't know. It didn't ask me how I wanted to pay for it, so that'll be interesting later on.
Oh, yeah. I had a
Little
weird.
thing.
I had a weird thing when we're talking about Facebook and their weirdness. I This lady bought a snowsuit that I purchased from Goodwill in order to resell it. I bought it for $15. It was a lady's snowsuit. It was really nice. So every
Nice.
now and then you'll find something like that at Goodwill. I'm like, yeah, I could turn this for a profit, right?
I like it.
So, but that was a year ago and nobody wanted it. And then I guess either it was the pandemic or just no ladies went skiing. I don't know. But anyway, so I finally got a bite. This lady bought it from me for, I bought it for like $15, sold it for 50. So that's a pretty good
Nice.
turnaround. Yeah.
You had to
And
wait a year, but
yeah, yeah. Um, if time is money, I guess I broke even. So anyway, so I've never sold anything on Facebook Marketplace before. So I printed out the label, packed it up, took it to work, and we have a shipping department at work. So just like, hey, Stan, here's this. He's like, yeah, I'll send it out with the mail in the morning. And then a couple days later, when all the snow's hitting, she was like, hey, just curiosity, did you get to mail that package? And I was like, yeah. And so then I looked to see where it was, and I work in Conway and I live in North Little Rock. I mailed it from Conway, and when I looked at the tracking, it said it was in North Little Rock, and I was like, that's the wrong direction. So
okay.
then yesterday it shows up on my doorstep. with a little note on it that said insufficient postage or something. And I was just like, I used the label that you.
no.
Anyway, so I went to the post office and I was like, I told them the situation, and so they just charged me the difference. They were really nice about it. So
Oh
I don't know.
wow, that sucks for the lady though.
Yeah,
That
she also lives in Houston, and you know,
oh
I
she
don't need to say anything else.
yeah she was ready for the snowstorm before. That sucks.
Yeah, so it was crazy. So hopefully we have better luck with with that.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, we're waiting on the Facebook gods. The Spotify and the Apple gods have approved us, and so if
Yay.
you type in "Don't Knock Out That Wall" on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, it will pop up. Um, also, if you go to crap,
That's big. And you know, by this time, like by the time everybody hears this, they'll be like, "Yeah, I knew that." You know, like 6 episodes ago.
yeah, come on, you guys, why are you just wasting your own
You guys
time?
are way behind.
You don't even know where your own podcast is.
Oh,
We use Libsyn for our hosting, so it would be don't knock out that wall .libsyn.com. I'm pretty
thank
sure
you,
that's
Libsyn.
correct. Um, if that is not correct, I will edit it.
Okay.
It sounds right because I've been there twice today. So you can stream straight from that site, or you can go to Spotify or Apple, and I'm sure there are other places we can post it as well. I mean, most people get their podcast from either one of those, right?
I would assume so.
Yeah.
Mine is Google Podcast, but I don't really know how to podcast, so
Yeah.
my phone just may have already got that, or I don't know. Mm. It get
But yeah. So yeah, go. Let me know if you can find it on Google, and I'll see if I can figure out if you
oh, I
cannot.
will. I've checked it about 3 times already today, and
Okay.
I will let you know.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna keep that going and make sure um, I know exactly how to do it. The process of getting it approved was not that difficult. You just have to make sure everything's right on the website, and then you just post it in the Apple. You sign in your own because everybody, well, not everybody, but you have to have an Apple account. You know, like,
Okay.
and you're just like, hey, this is my, they just you put in the URL and like, okay, well, I guess they have to. I don't even know what their process is. I'm sure they have to, determine that it is an actual podcast and that, I
They
don't even
get
know
your
if they.
firstborn if they
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's probably about it. Yeah.
I'm sure. I mean, that's probably the last line of every user agreement that I've ever agreed to. I'm probably due about 6 or 7 children right now.
Yeah, at least. User agreements are the worst.
Yeah.
They protect the person or the company that you're dealing with. However, segue, let's talk about how to protect yourself and your home. Is anybody looking out for that? The answer is yes. And it's code enforcement.
Code enforcement.
We love code enforcement. How many times have you heard that in your life? Probably
a lot in the past about 30 seconds. I think it's I'm really inundated with code enforcement. I want to add a little sound when you said it, like a robot. Code enforcement.
Yeah, that's yeah.
But you're right. I mean, code, and we're not talking about just like the Infinite Live code or the Blood code on Mortal Kombat. We're talking about regulations to ensure that everyone is safe and no one dies.
Exactly. Hold on. Let me take a 2 second break.
Okay. I'll vamp for a minute about what I know about code.
Try not to roll over my dog as I back up on the
Okay.
street.
Look out, dog.
There's no response from the dog. She had puppy training class today, so she's
Oh, she's out. All right.
out. She's done. She's tired.
I remember when I used to have to go to training class. Yep. So anyway, when you're talking about code, you have to remember that there are certain things that are more like guidelines than actual rules. You know, from all of the dealings that I've had with pirates, you know, they really adhere to that code. But if for some reason they do have to deviate from the code, you know, and it's you would call an extenuating circumstance, then they're okay with that as well. So it really depends, like I said, on the circumstance. You know, being a pirate, you need to be flexible. You need to make sure that you are ready for any situation. And sometimes the code just doesn't apply to what's going on in the ship. You know, you probably picked up a stray schooner, you know, that lost its sail. And, you know, there are various fishing codes that, you know, you probably are going to violate. So you can just throw those out. And, you know, take care of the business. Oh, hey, Brandon.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brandon's back.
Great.
Okay.
Love it. You're doing great.
We were just talking about pirate code, which is more like guidelines than actual rules.
I have heard that. Did you get into like parlay and all of that?
Oh, you know what? I mean, I was kind of alluding to that, but I totally forgot to mention.
It's got to be my favorite one. Parlay.
Side note, that movie is so good, and it was totally not what I expected. In fact, I don't know what I expected. Maybe that's why I liked it so much.
What movie is that?
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Just joking, but yeah.
I'm talking about real life, man. What are you talking about, movies? Right. I've been on the high seas.
Oh. Okay, so back to how about house code?
You know, I think that'd be more relevant to the show. You probably know. Go ahead. You probably know a little bit more than I do. And I mean, I covered all of the code that I know.
I
the
don't
blood
know.
Code and the pirate code.
Yeah, how many people do we have in the Caribbean listening?
Let's see.
That's where the pirates are, right? Most of them, or are they just all around?
Well, the Pirates of the Caribbean. I think there are Somali pirates, and I think there are what do you call them? Wall Street pirates, and there are.
How do you get the ship down there or up there?
That one's more like a figurative ship. They drive innovation and prices.
Fun.
Again, the only knowledge I have is from fiction. So let's talk about fact.
Let's talk about fact. Okay, so housing code, I'm going to tell you, it probably has a bad rap, right? Like I said, everybody loves housing codes, not really. And I'll tell you probably why is that code enforcer that always comes by and tells you that your grass is an inch too high and makes you cut it. I bet you why. That's probably why though.
It's just that certain individuals like that make you think of the person in class that reminds the teacher that there's a quiz. Mm-hmm. When there's an understood agreement amongst the class that she didn't say anything, and so
Right.
we're going home.
Yeah.
So keep your mouth shut. And then
Yeah.
there's one guy like, excuse me, Mrs. Jones.
5 minutes left. You had to bring it up. 5 minutes. Now we got 5 minutes to take this quiz.
I believe you have neglected to give us homework today, Mrs. Jones.
Mm-hmm. Kids getting beat up for sure.
Yeah,
So,
I believe not neglected to kick your butt.
so every few years, sometimes every year, depending on the code, gets updated, and it's a good thing. I'd say it's a good thing. Code it keeps people safe. Most of it
Mm-hmm.
is for fire safety. A couple weeks ago, we touched on electrical
Right.
code,
Yeah.
and try not to, you know, shock yourself or electrocute yourself, blow up the house. This is why some codes are there. Um, most codes are set, I would say, like municipal codes. So city, county codes are probably going to be the most current. So if you're trying to figure out, um, I think we'll brief on codes and then go into like getting permits and that kind of
Okay.
thing,
Yeah, that's a good
because
idea.
that's kind of more the DIY. Like, why do you need codes and what codes
Mm-hmm.
do you need to go do and what permits to pull for certain things?
Right.
Um, so this is kind of what I'm telling you, like, it's usually from the city or from the county that the codes arise from. Now, there are state and federal code minimums, but usually when you narrow down into the city, they get a little more specific. Um, Especially like there's historic districts. There's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of things where some codes are grandfathered in unless you do certain types of remodels or something like that to your house.
Yeah.
So that would be different.
I think we
Um,
mentioned that before. How if I were to do a remodel with the electrics in my house, then I would have to adhere to a certain code. But as it is now, my house was wired in the 80s, so I'm not required to change anything.
exactly. Yeah. And it's the same reason, like, a bunch of houses back in the 60s and 70s, 60s, 50s, whatever, still have knob and tube wiring
Mm-hmm.
in the house. Like, nothing's ever been updated, and it still goes along with code because it's grandfathered in. It's still, if it works, it's fine.
Yeah.
However, if you go in there and open up a wall, more than likely you're screwed and you're going to have to redo the whole electrical.
Yeah.
Um, this doesn't, don't get confused with subdivision covenants. So if you're in a specific like subdivision or area of the city, there are what's called covenants, and that's usually done by either the builder of the subdivision itself. Around here, I know we have a lot of subdivisions, Central Arkansas.
Yeah.
Like, we have a lot of subdivisions. So the builder of that subdivision can come up with covenants. Also, if it's not really in a subdivision, but it's an area, an older area, they can do kind of like a property owners association, POA type
Yeah.
thing. And they can make rules for the area. Those are usually more to keep the value of the house up,
Okay.
to keep the area, like the subdivision, pretty, right?
It's more like an aesthetic thing.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to approve colors.
Mm.
Sheds in the back of the yard can't be like metal or hand built. They have to match the aesthetics of the subdivision. Fences, things like that. Like, you can do wood or iron, but you can't do chain link. Like,
Yeah.
there's little things like that, and that's not government regulated. They can still fine you for things like that. I really don't know. I'm sure they could probably put a lien on your house if you go crazy with the fines in that
Hmm.
area, or they could. I'm sure they could have enforced them somehow.
Yeah, that would be something I wouldn't want to Wouldn't want to mess with. Wouldn't want to tango with those people.
No, I agree. And some of those people are going to be the guys in the front row that remind the teacher that there's a quiz. So they're going to put a letter on your door that's like, "Hey, you you painted your siding the wrong color and now you have to spend thousands of dollars to paint it a different color cuz you didn't get that approved."
That's
Or we keep
that's like that's slightly your fault. You should have known better than to spend all that money on the wrong paint.
right, just go neutral beige. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about it. I know
Yeah.
it's boring, but whatever. Paint your inside walls crazy.
Yeah, exactly. It is your domain on the inside. On the
It
outside,
is your
people have to
domain
look
on
at
the
it.
inside. Exactly. So there's that. Yeah. So the main thing with codes that are federally or state, local things, I mean, it's for your safety.
Mm-hmm.
Plumbing, gets more technical every time, so you don't want like ways of sewer backing up into your house or um, the fumes or anything like that. That's why they have P traps on your sinks and toilets. I guess toilets kind of have their own like self P trap, right? They
Yeah.
hold the water, and that's the same thing why a P trap is underneath your sink to hold water, so the fumes and the gases from the sewer don't leak back into your house, which they stink, right? They smell like sewage, but they also contain a lot of bad things that you don't need to be breathing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
I'd say,
plumbing. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that those are the things, especially when you get into working on your own stuff, as far as in the plumbing realm. Those are the silent heroes, the little things you never think about, the little P traps.
Yes.
What that's basically the curve of the pipe that all the water goes out, that's out through all the wastewater, right?
Right.
Because
Yep.
I mean the water is definitely unidirectional, but gas is going to go wherever it wants to. So if you have that layer of water, that's good. You want to stop that
Exactly.
gas
So
from coming
yeah,
up.
the gas is going to rise, and it can either rise in your pipes into your house, or it can be flushed out to the city and rise. And I don't know where else it goes. Maybe up through the manholes or something.
No, maybe.
Maybe.
I didn't realize until I was getting into this that there's like an exhaust pipe that goes out your roof.
Yes. So there's okay. So mainly what that does is help water flow to the sewer a lot easier.
Okay.
It's like a Coke bottle.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a 2 liter Coke bottle or whatever, or a water bottle, and flip it straight upside down, there's no air, so it like bubbles up. It goes boop, 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 as it goes down. But
Yeah.
that pipe that goes, and depending on how your plumbing is routed, there can be a pipe at like each sink or whatever, or it can be like one or two in your system that go through the roof of your house more than likely. And what that is basically like cutting a hole in the bottom of the Coke bottle. So when you flip it upside down, air can get in up there, and the Coke or the water can just drain straight out the bottom and not suffocate itself.
Right. You don't want any sort of vacuum in the line.
Yeah. It's like a beer shotgun. When you stab a hole in the side and then pop it and open it, the beer goes straight down your throat.
Some of you know what we're talking about.
I feel like either the water bottle upside down or the shotgunning a beer.
I think we've covered the audience.
Everybody's going to know one of those things.
If you don't, then we'll have to make a video just to show you what we're talking about. But I feel like that margin is so slim that if you fall into that category, you're going to have to wait a while.
Yes. Over 21. Only over 21 will you beer bong, be beer, be yeah, be shotgun a beer. Only over 21.
I shotgunned a Sun-Kissed one time.
Gross. Carbonated? I bet you burped like crazy.
Yeah, I don't know why I did. I think it just felt like a good idea at the time.
I'm assuming it was the original orange.
Mm.
Yeah. Classic. for the under 21 age group.
Yep. Orange soda.
Yeah. Okay, so there's that, and every okay, so there's plumbing. We talked electrical a while ago. There's heat with your HVAC and that kind of things. There's I would say codes for rodent infestation, right? Just make sure everything is completely sealed off, that kind of thing, to make sure that random raccoons don't go in your house and cause a fit.
Right. Someone once said to me that common sense is not always common knowledge, and it's and it's funny to me too that once you learn what these codes and regulations are, a lot of them are pretty simple to follow and pretty practical, but you just don't realize,
Practical, I would agree. Like at the beginning, DIYer would think, well, the easiest method is to do this, then this. But then somebody who is educated and who listens to this podcast religiously would know it's not really the easiest thing that's the best way. You can do this, which is still easy. However, it's so much better in the long run for multiple reasons. And then that person's like, oh, you know what? That makes sense.
Yep.
I'm going to do it that way. Spend an extra $1, get a P-trap, and I won't smell sewer in my bathroom. Genius. It's the little things.
I'll tell you, getting back to our Canadian friends, there was a show that was on Netflix for a brief amount of time. It was called Canadian. It was called Canada's Worst Handyman.
No.
And it was pretty inspiring and pretty educational because you got to see exactly how not to do everything.
Nice.
And they have all these people that I guess it's their spouses or family members or whatever submit them to the show. Now they think they know what they're doing, but they don't.
Yeah.
So, their wives, daughters, husbands, and so on, cousins, former lovers, submit them, and then they get to compete to see who is in fact the worst. And I didn't hang around for the entire season because they kicked it off of Netflix, but just from what I watched, it was pretty entertaining. And there were a lot of things like the name of our show, Don't Knock Out That Wall. There was a guy that took out a column, I guess, near his staircase, and then you see over time that it's like got a huge sag in it,
Right.
And of course he didn't think about that when he did it. He just knocked it out. His wife
I wonder
was
if they
like,
think about that later. It'd be like, when that column was there for the 15 years, this roof didn't sag.
what could have changed?
What in the world happened? So yes, I guess our point is that codes are there to help you, and don't think negative on them.
Yeah, I don't want to disparage any people who are actually whose job is to enforce codes. They're not all nerds,
Right.
I'm sure a lot of them are actually good at their job and they're passionate about it. And um, yeah,
Yeah,
so don't take their lunch money and don't beat them up after school.
exactly. Because they're going to end up making billions of dollars coming up with a way for you to have a conversation with your friend and videotape it and then take the audio and let everybody hear it. That's a
Innovation.
yeah, yeah. What we're doing now, by the way. Okay, so how do you know what's code if you need to ask anybody about code when you're doing renovations? Like, what's the process? It's
Brandon.
permits, right? You got to go to the city and ask them. Pretty much anywhere, like that's going to be my general tip for today. Is if you want to do any kind of renovation to your house where you might think you need some kind of permit, call and ask because they do tons of stuff, especially if it's something to do with a contractor.
Mm-hmm.
If your contractor is licensed contractor and bonded, which you should always have, and bonded just means that they have insurance for if anything goes wrong or they hurt themselves at your house, they don't sue you for it. Like they have insurance that covers them for that. So you want to make sure that they are a licensed contractor. They've taken the tests, they've taken the classes, they know what they're doing, and they have insurance to cover them just in case. So, two tips for sure: contractors, and when they're coming in, if they are those legit contractors, they'll know if there's permits that they have to pull. Mm-hmm. Now, however, the DIYer doesn't know, right? If you're going to knock down a wall, heaven forbid, you may need a permit. You may need a structural engineer to come in and make sure that like the column on the staircase,
Mm-hmm.
if you knock down that column, hell's going to break loose.
It's very slowly, but eventually,
yes. It could take a while. Other things could take, the day that it happens.
Yeah.
So yeah. So your city, your county, they're going to have a division that is specifically for permits and codes. They're going to have people there that are specifically for you calling and getting a permit, where you pay for a permit. That's where your code enforcement agents work and where they will charge you the penalties and everything. So there's going to be a a place to do that. Trying to think of the technical.
We're having one of those moments where
I had like a what is
that word is there, but we can't. It's just like grasping for it.
There's a phone number. There's a place to call.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that because your initial question was, what should you do if you want to know if you need a permit? I was just going to say ask you, but it's actually a better idea. People that don't have your contact information, I do. I mean, I know where you live. In an emergency, I could probably come get you if I need you. But the regular listener, the armchair DIYer, may not be able to get a hold of you in a pinch.
Absolutely, and even if so, I'm not a licensed permit guy, right? So I couldn't tell you if you needed a permit or something on it. I would tell, and it again, it all depends. Like, are you in the city limits? What city are you in? Are you outside the city limits? So then it goes to the county. Mm-hmm. And what county are you in? So that
what country are you in?
What country are you in? I don't even know what Canada does, or the Caribbean, or everywhere else that there's pirates.
I think actually what I've come to understand is that they have eradicated the pirate population in Canada, so they don't have a problem with pirates in Canada.
Good.
But that's like the only place.
Good.
The further south you get, the number of pirates raises exponentially.
I tell you, more and more, Canada just seems like a wholesome, safe place.
Mm-hmm.
It's, other than it being cold, like I don't know, seems
No,
cool.
and joking aside, we have half joked about that to our mothers recently in recent times, like in response to any of the crazy things that have happened in our nation's capital. We're like, hey, we're thinking about moving to Canada, uh, but we don't want to move without you. You think you'd want to move with us? And both of our moms were like, we're ready.
Yeah. It's gonna be different. It's gonna be a change, but no, you might like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I should visit Canada first before I decide. I'm sure I'll like it though.
That's good. The one time I've been, it was an enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
Except for the cop that pulled me over. He was kind of an ass.
As much of an ass that a Canadian can be, I suppose.
Well, they really are. Like I don't know. I've like even when we were up there, one of the guys was like, "Yeah, we have a good sense of humor, but the way we come across, you're gonna think we're an ass to you." So
Oh, okay.
it's like we kind of are, but we love you. So one of those things.
I honestly, you know what? I prefer that.
Yeah, yeah. Let me see here.
So you were in Alberta, right? Is that the that's a province, right? Calgary, Alberta.
Calgary, yeah.
Okay.
Calgary and Banff is where we went. I don't know Alberta. Sure.
I'm trying to remember all my Canadian provinces. You got British Columbia, Alberta, Ontario, Saskatchewan, Nova Scotia, Quebec, New Brunswick,
Look
Newfoundland.
at you.
I think I could be totally wrong.
I'm sure you'll
I
hear about it if you are. Yeah.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
bring it on,
Yep.
Canadian listeners.
Let us know what we're doing wrong. We don't
Yeah.
care. Um, okay, so kind of off the top of my head, the items that probably will need permits. I'm going to say anything structural for sure.
Walls.
Yeah, walls if you're knocking them out, um, roof, anything with that, anything even adding on like a front porch. Um, I do know if you add on, you need to watch out because even though it's on your property, some cities will not let you add on if it's so close to the house or so close to the main road,
Oh yeah. Okay.
because they want to make sure that there's like it's not really an easement, but you can't build a house 100% on your lot. Like there's got to be yard and there's got to be um, area if they need to expand that road or make it wider or anything like that. They can come in and do that.
Mm-hmm.
So adding on additions are for sure. Um, yeah, taking out walls for sure because you want to make sure that your house is still structural.
Yeah.
Any of the components, HVAC issues, you want to make sure that everything goes to code with HVAC. You want to make sure that every room, gets a good supply of air and the circulation is correct. Not only will that help your HVAC system with the energy with it running smoothly if all of the rooms get adequate air or heat or and all of that, but also you don't want one room to be like closed off
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
100% of the
Yeah.
time like that. HVAC's there, plumbing, we discussed that earlier. Electrical, we discussed that a couple weeks ago, which is a big thing. Digging, even in your backyard, when you dig, you need to contact your city to make sure that you're not digging where some kind of sewer line or electrical line or any kind of cable is. So, they have those commercials. Before you dig, call so and so.
I have a question about that. Actually, I've been wondering about. I mean, I'm always thinking about what I want to do with my shop, and of course, whenever I get to the point where I want to dig into the ground to lay some electrical wire to put a fuse box, I don't have power in the shop.
Yep.
But it sounds like it'd be fairly easy to do. But around in that kind of the area in my backyard near the deck, I'd like to put a garden.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to kind of till that up. Does that count? Do I need to call somebody for that, or is that even going to go deep enough?
That's not going to go deep enough. And off the top of my head, I don't know how deep cities have to put their line in the ground, but I do know if you're digging to put your own electrical lines in the ground. Okay, so for a shop, you're going to dig so deep for the electrical lines, and you're going to want to put those electrical lines in a outdoor rated PVC pipe. PVC may not be right. It may need to be the galvanized metal. If it's electrical.
I think I've heard both.
But... Yeah, I think there might be a PVC pipe that's rated specifically for electrical underground, and that's just so when you're digging for plants, just in case you don't put it deep enough, your shovel's not going to go into that electrical line and electrocute you immediately.
Yeah.
Trying to plant a tree in your backyard.
How ironic would that be if you're trying to save the earth and you die from electrical shock?
It's that ironic. Yes. Unfortunately, ironic. So digging those, I would even say something like a sprinkler system. Like if you're going to dig even that deep, because depending on where you live, those water pipes need to be so low to kind of help from freezing.
Yeah.
In most winters, I mean, some winters you just can't help it because it gets so crazy cold. But
yeah,
things like that, I would definitely call the city, maybe get a survey just to know. I think a general rule is good to know where your lines are going to be around your yard, so you can kind of plan that way.
Do you know if that costs money?
I would say that depends on your utility companies, because you can call. If you get a survey, yes. Some kind of survey, if you're going to build like a fence around your yard that doesn't have a fence, if you're going to put in a pool, something like that, you're going to need a survey. A survey is going to cost money for sure.
Yeah.
Now, if you call the gas company and the water company and the electric company to come out and just mark where the lines are, that might not. They may do that free of charge just to make sure that you don't screw things up and they have to, send people out to fix what you screwed up.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry, the wife just got back home, so I need to
no problem.
Lock her out.
Okay. The rule still stands. Ladies are not allowed.
They're not allowed. That's very beginning. Get out of here.
Unless they bring food. I guess that's fine.
Oh, food's always good. Yeah.
We'll probably have to discuss in our bylaws like when we can make an exception for the particular rule that we have applied to the podcast. But as of right now, no exceptions.
None. We make our own rules.
That's right.
Kind of as we're going along. Yeah.
I guess. I mean, you have a girl dog. That's fine though. No lady humans.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was a loophole. I just want to make sure that we specify human ladies. Goldfish, dogs, cats, maybe horses. Who knows?
Horses? You're letting horses in the podcast?
I mean, you know, that is a little ridiculous. I'm sorry.
Doesn't matter. You know what? We make our own rules. You want a horse in your room? Bring it on.
I mean, I don't even know where I would get one, but if a horse showed up, I'd be like, you know, in fact, it would be sort of a waste of time to be like, are you a girl horse or a boy horse?
Prove it. No, don't prove. Okay, anyway.
I think the first question I could probably ask if a horse was here would be, how'd you get here?
Are you sure it wouldn't go to are you a guy or a girl?
They would start by trying to explain, like, hold on, actually, before you start, there's something I need to know first.
What sex are you? Okay,
Yes.
now, how did you get here? Pull up a chair. Let's talk. Assuming if it strolled into your room, it could talk. Okay. Yeah. Anyway. Let's get back to
The code.
the code. So what next? I guess that kind of okay. So codes are good.
Mm-hmm.
You need permits probably on a lot of large things.
I was actually gonna ask you, Brandon.
Yes.
In your experience, what is something that you have had to obtain a permit for in one of your flips?
A few things. Electrical for sure with an electrician. Plumbing was one. I moved. Let's see. There's a house with a slab, and I moved basically the laundry room. So it was the drain for the washer moved from one part of the house to the other, and they had to jack up part of the slab and move that. That was a permit. And I'm assuming, I hate to say that I'm assuming because I don't know for sure, but there's been a couple of roofs added to some houses. I'm assuming roofs. I know roofs are supposed to be permitted, but I'm assuming since they're contractors, they got everything legit.
You would hope so.
Yeah. None of them were like, yeah, we're going to do this on a Sunday and we're going to do it in one day and we're going to be in and out.
You won't even know we were there.
Nobody knows we were there.
In fact, this conversation never took place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're gonna need payment in cash for this $10,000 roof. Yeah, sure.
10,000 Canadian dollars. That is
10,000 Canadian dollars in an offshore account. So yes, and luckily here in Little Rock, they actually have a online process that you can go out. Whatever government website we have for Little Rock, and you can actually fill out a permit online.
Oh, cool.
Which is pretty cool. Yeah.
It seems like North Little Rock seems to be pretty good about a lot of stuff like that. I have not had to fill out any permits, but their city website is pretty good.
Pretty user friendly. And North Little
Yeah.
Rock is very tight on code enforcement.
Yeah.
And FYI, if you're planning on doing anything without getting a permit, these code enforcers, like, they know what to look for. And
Mm.
when they're driving around, like, they're looking for someone who's doing something without a permit. And if you're doing something without a permit that needs to be permitted, they can walk in, they can shut you down, they can fine you. I mean, like, they've got that authority to do that.
Mm.
And then you have to go in and you have to get it permitted, and hopefully your permit gets approved for whatever you're doing. And then you pay the fines, you pay the permit, and then you can continue with the work. So it's definitely a hassle if you try to go without doing a permit and then get caught.
Yeah. There's a
So
general life philosophy that says it's better to ask forgiveness than permission, but I don't feel like that applies to building permits.
I wouldn't say that applies, because you can go back and, like, plead ignorance or negligence, and they're like, "Nah, well, here's your fine."
Yep.
Ah. Yep. Okay, so do you want to talk about some common things that people don't? So those are the areas. How about the top things that you may not think about when you're redoing? Um,
Yeah,
and I've done this multiple times. I know that you've done this in your house. You removed popcorn ceilings.
I did.
Did you check for asbestos?
I did not a check. I did not a check.
You
I
didn't.
didn't check for asbestos, but we inquired about that before we purchased the home.
So I'm going to be completely honest with you. I never check for asbestos. I don't think that asbestos is that big of a deal. I'm one of those guys that's like, yeah, that seems like a scam. That's just a moneymaker, asbestos kind of a thing. However, it's real. Um, if your house was built before 1970, there's a chance that there's something with asbestos in it.
Mm-hmm.
Popcorn ceiling has it. Vinyl tile for, like, kitchens and bathrooms could have it. There's also the tile ceilings that
Yeah.
some of the older houses have, sometimes like 40s and 50s. And that's the 1940s and 50s. Like, here in Central Arkansas, that's, something in the 1940s is kind of an old house. I know in the Northeast, they're like, 1920? That's new construction. What are you doing? Uh, so anyway, around here, um, and there's some, like, attic insulation and cement siding that was used back then that could contain asbestos. You're about to say something?
Oh well, I was just gonna say, if we get something that's that old, we slap a historical landmark sticker on it.
Absolutely, we do. Yeah, this was old lady Betty's house, 1922.
She made the first pumpkin pie on the block. So call the governor.
Yep. Check. Now your house is worth more. Congratulations.
So you think that this is, I guess, the way you feel that asbestos is kind of one of those scare words? I mean, it sounds like it's something that they use prominently way before we were even alive.
Yes,
Maybe,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
And asbestos, so the reason that asbestos is so bad is because it's a really fine material. And when you're taking down that popcorn ceiling or that tile ceiling or tearing up the tile floors that have asbestos, those small particles you breathe and they get in your lungs, and that's what causes all the problems and leads to cancer and all this kind of stuff. Um, Me myself, like if you're doing this, of course I'm a big mask wearer. Like I like those big 3M masks with multiple filters in it,
Yeah.
just because I've dealt with asthma when I was younger. I've got allergies now. I hate dealing with allergies, so
Hmm.
I don't mind wearing the mask when I'm dealing with a lot of dust and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's really the only reason asbestos is an issue, is when you're remodeling for it. So if you have a house, it has asbestos ceilings or tile, if you're not going to take it down or remodel it, it's not a big deal.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
So there's that. Now, on the other hand, checking for asbestos, you can take a little sample of whatever you think might have asbestos and send it off. And usually checking for asbestos is less than $50 to have it tested, yay or nay. And
Yeah.
then you can be good to go ahead and continue if it's, negative, that you can be safe that it doesn't have asbestos. Now, if it's positive, or you have a city that's really hardcore on that, on those, I mean, like they can come in here, and especially if they know it's tested positive or anything like that, like those things are like tens of thousands of dollars in fines.
Whoa.
And to get it remediated from a company that does it legitly is really expensive, like thousands of dollars to have that completely removed, because they've got to seal everything off. They've got to have it ventilated
I've heard.
correctly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and they've got to basically spray it down so it's damp the whole time that they're removing it. They've got to have those little hazmat suits. Like they go hardcore with it. And that's the main reason I'm like, guys, really? Like, you're really like, but those guys deal with it all the time. So I'm
Yeah.
sure if I was removing asbestos, every day of my life, I'd be more careful.
I don't have a problem wearing masks either. I mean, especially after to remove the popcorn ceiling, we did, dampen it, but then I
Mm-hmm.
had to, sort of sand a lot of it too because it didn't just come off, especially like in the joints where the drywall comes together.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I've gone through several of those little, the M95 masks. Back when you could find those, I had plenty of them.
Yeah, for real. Um, so yeah, asbestos. So that's one of the things where if you really want to go to code, which of course I would say we recommend,
Mm-hmm.
right? Do it
Yes.
right. This is how it is. Get it tested for asbestos. Same thing with lead-based paint. Anything built prior to 1978 might have lead-based paint, and that's kind of the same thing. Like more than likely, since 78 or before, if you're in a house, it's been painted, and if it gets painted over, then it's not really a big deal. But
Yeah.
it's when it's original and you start messing with the lead based paint, like scraping it off, or um, it's just those small particles that you breathe and get in your lung that you don't even know you're doing, that does the damage. So same thing with that. It's a There's test kits for lead based paint as well,
Mm-hmm.
and they're pretty cheap. So if that concerns you, I would highly recommend just get it tested and make sure. And once it's negative, you can move on with it.
Yeah.
What do you think? Have anything to add on that one?
I was just thinking about one of the recent projects we did, and it involved removing all of the layers of paint that were on our bathroom door frame.
Ooh.
Yeah. So the door and the door. So the door and the door frame had been
Yeah.
painted over. I mean, this house is 40 years old, so at least, one layer every 10 years, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we stripped it all the way down and then repainted it. So
So with that, originally, more than likely, so 1978 is when lead-based paint was banned. So anything after that, you're good. Anything before that, there's a good chance, especially with doors and door frames, they were wood. They were like the natural wood because that was the style back in the day. Like
yeah.
they didn't really start painting trim until after
Oh, I
that,
see. Okay.
usually. So more than likely, originally, even if your house is prior to 1978, your doors and trim were wood and they didn't get painted until after lead-based paint wasn't a thing anymore.
Okay.
More than likely. Feel free, absolutely get it tested, make sure, but that's something to think about as well.
Yeah. I mean, the point is that the resources are there for you if you are concerned. Because it's
Absolutely.
better to err on the side of caution, especially when you're dealing with lead and
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
like that. Lead is bad.
Lead, lead is dead.
I was trying to do it like in a accent. Lead is bad.
I think you get your point across.
Yeah, I think so.
I think you're good. Yeah. How about this is yeah, go ahead and I'm not really sure what you're doing. For everyone at home, he's just zipping his windbreaker up all the way to the top, and now he has a weird turtleneck situation going on.
Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
Okay, you gotta do what you gotta do. You're your own man. Do what you want to do. All right. Here's one that I am definitely guilty of. And I don't know if this is actually a code per se for most people. In some areas, it may be a code thing. As a real estate agent, I do know that inspectors do tag this item as something that needs to be fixed, and that is venting your bathroom fan only into the attic.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hey, I have personal experience with that because that's something
Yeah.
that, first of all, I know for a fact, having been up in my attic and replaced both exhaust fans, neither of them were vented to the outside. They just blew into the attic. One of them blew straight into the insulation, so I don't know if that did any good at all.
Yeah. That one probably not.
So, but you can buy those kits where you hook it. That's the next thing I got to figure out is how to get it from there through because I got to cut a hole somewhere.
Exactly. You've got to cut a hole in your roof. And now that honestly can be a DIY thing. I've I hate to admit this. As a flipper, as somebody who's, over this podcast and everything, I've never vented one through the roof. So I'm not exactly sure how they work. I have, however, installed multiple they're like sunlights. So you cut a hole in the roof and it's a reflective tube that goes through the ceiling, and the ceiling is open, so it's like a solar light kind of a thing. Sunlight.
Yeah.
I don't think sunlight's the word. What is that? Maybe a sunlight. Okay. Anyway, I've cut holes in roofs before.
I probably would have been able to tell you what it was until you said
Until
that, and now I think that's what you said it was.
I mentioned skylight.
Skylight.
Maybe that's what it is.
I think
Go
that's
skylight. Okay, we'll go with skylight. And basically, you cut a hole in your roof. Usually, they'll come with a template, and they come with certain things to where the biggest thing is going to be sealing off for water around there, because when you cut a hole in your roof, you're cutting a hole in your shingle and everything, and now you've got a big hole where all this water can just go into your attic and all this. So you've got to make it completely leak proof.
Yeah.
Which seems like a bad thing to do, right? You want to keep your roof as solid as possible. But these bathroom fans, when they blow it, they blow the air into your attic. You're blowing all this like humidity and everything into it, which is moisture, which is staying in your attic, and causing all kinds of mold and things to grow in your attic, which is the biggest negative thing for venting your bathroom vent into your attic and not through the roof.
Yeah.
So anyway, and a lot of these vents, like I've bought multiple bathroom vents and none of them automatically come with something to vent it right out of the roof.
That is kind of weird, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I know. Like, if this is so common and this is what it's supposed to do, why isn't it all an all-in-one kit? But it's not. It's usually just here's the motor, it shoots it into the attic, and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's probably a code in certain places. I don't feel like that's a federal code or anything like that.
It certainly wasn't brought up when our house was inspected. I don't know if he even looked at that, but I mean, they were functioning. They did blow. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of mind-boggling, but that's one of the things that a lot of people don't think about.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have to Google that
one. Call your permit place.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. That's probably one of those things that's grandfathered in. Be like, yeah, you're fine unless you put a new air vent in your bathroom.
Yeah. Hello, is this the city? I have some questions.
Yeah. I've got this bathroom.
Go on.
Anyway, yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's about it. I had something else. I don't remember what it was. Oh, here's a good one. Ceiling height. Ooh. So if you feel like going into your attic, which we've been talking about, and you want to make like a master suite or a bonus room or something like that in your attic, ceiling height is a big thing. So anything under 7 feet doesn't really count. So you need a minimum of 7-foot ceilings to count as a room.
Really?
Now in that room, like, you know how most rooms, especially if they're like in an attic, the sides are going to be angled.
Right.
And then you're going to have the top roof. So the top ceiling itself needs to be at least 7 feet. And at least 50% of that room needs to have 7-foot ceilings. And anything under 5 foot doesn't count at all. Like anything under 5 foot, you might as well not even enclose it and make it part of the room.
Interesting.
Yeah. Which is really weird, right?
Yeah, I didn't know there were regulations for things like that.
Yep. So if you're trying to figure out, and that's another thing, like if you're buying a house and it's got an attic turned into a room and you're trying to figure out if that's like proper square footage, that's how appraisers are going to know if that's actually square footage that counts.
Mm-hmm.
Is the ceiling 7 foot tall? Is at least 50% of the room 7 foot ceilings? And anything under 5 foot, it it's not a legit room. It's not really usable. And another thing, which I've been talking to appraisers quite a bit, this isn't really a code thing, but bedrooms, most everybody is like, okay, a bedroom needs a window and a closet, right?
Yeah.
Appraisers are actually kind of getting away from the closet deal. They just want two forms of exit, which is, I guess, like, there's some older houses that the flow is you go into one bedroom, you have to like walk through a bedroom to get to another bedroom.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So as long as there's two forms of exit in that room, I get like technically it can be a bedroom. Now you can't consider your living room a bedroom, right? Because it's
Right.
your living room, but
That's a really good Mitch Hedberg bit, actually.
yeah, because you can always put like what is that? Like an armoire,
Yeah.
whatever it is, for closet space. So you don't have to like have like a legit closet in there.
He's
So that's fun.
he's talking about like man, screw you, real estate lady. I think it's up to me how many bedrooms my house has. This bedroom has a couch in it. This bedroom has a stove in it. This bedroom is in this other guy's house.
Exactly. Yeah. You can try it. I trust me. I've gone into some houses that have been like they tell you how many bedrooms there are, and you're sitting there like, what is? Are they saying this is a bedroom? Like, I guess technically you can put a bed in it.
Yeah.
It's got two forms of exit, so it's not a fire hazard to have somebody in here in bed.
So a form of exit would be any like a door or a window. Is
A
that what you
door
mean?
or a window, as long as the window, ooh, the window has to be so many inches from the floor so a kid can get out of it, and it has to
Mm-hmm.
be so big for like any normal human can fit through it.
Yeah.
um so like one of those really small, like 2 foot by 2 foot windows that are in the top of the wall that basically just let a little bit of light in, they don't
Yeah.
count.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you have to actually be able to get out of it in case of a fire if you can't go through the door. Oh yeah, there's that. A little known fact as well, outside fences, there's a lot of places where code limits you to a 6 foot fence.
Hmm.
So you can't put like, some people want 8 foot fences to be like extra private,
Yeah.
and the code won't allow it. I don't know why. I've never
Yeah, that's
heard.
interesting.
Yeah, that is an interesting one. So fences is a big thing anyway. Like if you're going to put a fence in, that's something you want to make sure that you have a survey. And there's also a thing with some cities are getting now, if you're putting in a fence, it has to be like inside your property itself. Like it can't be on the line. You can't have a shared fence.
Uh,
So some cities are even going that far. So if you are adding a fence to it, it has to be inside your property line. And then your neighbor's fence is going to be inside their property line. So you're basically going to have like two fences side by side going all the way down, but it's not shared. So
that sounds complicated.
it really is. And it sounds stupid to me. Like, what does it matter?
It's kind of a waste of space, whatever, however much that is between
Yeah, exactly.
no man's land there.
Yeah, there's a little bit of no man's land.
Makes me
To
think of the
me,
war.
yeah, there's no man's land. And that's just like a perfect place for snakes and wasps to get.
Yes.
That's what
A
I'm
razor
seeing.
wire. That's what I would
Mm-mm.
put there.
Yeah. Mm-mm. No.
Razor wire and those big things that they put on the beach in Normandy. I got to protect my property.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as long as it's permitted, protect your property. Go for it.
Yeah. You have to have a permit for one of those big beach buster things. Is that what they call them?
I would tell you to ask your local office. See what I did there?
Yep,
See
yep,
what I
yep.
did there? Yeah.
That's the correct answer.
There you
Now,
go.
of course, now I want to call my city and I want to record that conversation just to see what they say. And I don't want to know what it's called either. I want to try to describe what it is that I'm wanting on my. Ma'am. So protection of my property is important. I need to put out one of those. Have you seen that movie Saving Private Ryan? They got the big old. They look like a big giant X.
And you know what's going to be funny is the person knows exactly what you're talking about and knows exactly what it's called and be like, oh, yeah, you can do that as long as it's so and 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 so.
Like, thank you.
And you're like, oh,
Just hang up defeated.
yeah, exactly.
I got the one person that understands, that knows World War II history.
Ah, defeated, or was that a perfect answer?
I mean, it was, yeah.
Yeah, you can go
was
back and be
hoping.
like, see, this is why you call your city. These people know.
It was a perfect answer for practical sake, but for comedy, it was really a killer. Really kind of a downer.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
All right. Well, those are kind of all the tips that I really had was going through that. You have anything to add or questions or?
No, I think I came up with all the questions that I had. I'm glad that you brought this up because, like I said, these are little things like that. I feel like, behind the scenes, because especially if you're really passionate about doing a project, you want to just get in there and get your hands dirty, figure it out as you go. But there are a lot of times where if you're doing that, you could really mess something up.
Yeah, you really could. You really could. And it screws things up for you. It screws things up and also think of it as somebody who's buying a home where somebody has already messed everything up.
Yeah.
You don't want to buy one of those homes. You shouldn't really want to sell one of those homes to somebody else. So, and you definitely shouldn't want to live in a home where you're like, yeah, I did it. It's good. Surely, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah. Have you run into anything like that where you've noticed like a glaring violation in some like either a house that you're looking to sell or that you have bought?
Nothing comes to mind automatically. Um, and I want to say that's mostly because it's so common.
Hmm.
And it could be one of those things where it's just so old and you're like, man, that's old. That needs to be replaced or that needs to be updated kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But then of course, yeah, I've seen extension cords from houses ran to sheds before, and that's how they get their power.
Yeah.
I mean, that one actually rings a bell. That wasn't too long ago.
Yeah.
And it was in the air. Like it was from the eave of the house, ran about 15 feet to the roof of the shed. It was an extension cord. And inside the shed, they took another extension cord and split the wires inside the extension cord to be able to like hook up a light switch and an electrical outlet. That's a huge no.
Yeah.
I have no idea where it came from in the attic. Like just see an extension cord coming from the eave of a house to a shed, and you're like, well, that's not right.
Well, just as a disclaimer, that's not the kind of setup I have. Even though I do have a shop with tools in it
Mm-hmm.
that need power, and it's kind of far away. But
Which is completely fine. Like as long so with that, I'm gonna go ahead and go with that. From the knowledge that I have, you can go off your main electrical box. I would definitely say hire an electrician to add a breaker that will run nothing but your shed,
mm-hmm.
and then they can tie a wire off of that breaker and basically like put it in conduit to go straight into the ground, and you can run that wire underground in the proper either metal galvanized pipe or that specific rated PVC all the way to your shed, and then come up, and then that wire can split to electrical outlets and switches and that kind of thing. So that's completely fine. Like that would
That's what I want. That would
yeah
be way
yeah
better.
yeah.
Be more efficient, I'm sure.
Yep. Yep. Either that, or depending on how much load is going to be in your shop, you could have an electrician run somehow off the main power coming into your house, one wire going to your shed, and having an electrical box on your shed, and then that contain, two or three breakers at the shed itself, and then you can run those off to multiple outlets and switches and lights and that kind of thing. So it depends on how much electricity you're pulling and how many outlets and everything you're going to put out there.
Yeah, that's one thing I saw uh, in my grandpa's shed was he had an actual breaker in there,
Yeah.
and he had a lot of things that were um, put together in an interesting way. Uh, he had some lines coming off from the breaker to an electrical outlet, like a receptacle.
Mm-hmm.
The receptacle mounted like to the side of the table saw. It was really interesting. I'd never seen anything like that before. He was a pretty creative guy. He also there was one thing I know that probably wasn't up to code was that he had his gun safe in the shop, and right behind this very large, very heavy gun safe was the plug-in that he was going to plug in the. It's either a dehumidifier or a humidifier. I don't know which one goes in a gun safe.
I don't know either.
It was some sort of environmental control, basically. Whatever,
Okay.
whatever you. I don't have a gun, so.
I would say dehumidifier, right? You don't want moisture with your guns.
You're probably right. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's coming out the back, and just normal, a normal plug for like a regular, 2-prong plug.
Yeah.
It's supposed to go in there, but to have that plugged in, he wouldn't be able to push the safe flush with the wall.
Right.
So he cut the prongs off, stripped the wires, and ran them in and connected them to the receptacle on the screws in the wall, and then pushed it. And that's because we're trying to move the safe out because my cousin got the safe and we were trying to figure out how to get it out, and then we pulled it out and we're like, what does this go to? And so then we took the plate off the receptacle and saw how he had spliced the wires. I was like, way to go, Papa. It was creative, but also probably legal.
It was definitely creative. And I would say one good thing is that he actually put the wire into the box. So at least there's it's inside that junction box.
He did. Yeah, that's true.
So
I mean, it probably would have tripped a breaker. I know that the electricity went straight to that breaker on the other side of the room. So
Yeah. Okay.
ideally, it was a wood shop though. So
Yeah.
Well.
It's not horrible. It's probably not code, but it's not horrible. Okay.
I'm sure people have seen worse things. I mean,
Yeah. Nice. Good stuff. All right. Well, I'm all out.
yeah, I think we're good. I think that was a good rundown of the code. And remember, always check with your city for the code. Arr. Unlike the pirate code, they are actual guidelines you should follow that are rules.
They're not more like guidelines.
Right.
They're actual rules.
Actual rules.
You can pay a pretty penny for them.
Arr.
All right.
It'll cost you a shilling. Or two. So this has been Don't Knock Out That Wall. Of course, we appreciate your listening to the podcast, all 6 or 7 of you. 1,000, right? Am I right?
You.
Yeah. We love each and every one of you.
Absolutely.
And hope to meet you all someday. And I'm rambling because I forgot. The next thing I was supposed to tell you is that if you have a question for us, if you are working on a project and you have something that's stumping you, or you want to know just which city you should call to find out where you need to get a permit, email us at dontknockoutthatwall@gmail.com.
We'll help you out.
Yep. Also, the same name applies to our Facebook page. We'll be posting there as well, and you can post a question on that feed also, if you so desire.
Plenty of ways to get in contact with this.
Yes. Apart from, like I said, our personal numbers, we will not be giving those out. So, but we'll be checking the email.
Exactly. Of course, I want to. I'm a realtor. You can find my phone number pretty easy.
Oh man,
it's everywhere.
You got like little cards with your face on them and stuff.
I know. I've got them, and I feel like I'm looking at my card right now. My cell phone is the biggest thing on that card.
Well, unlike Brandon, I will be.
You will not
into the oblivion. You will never know where I am, except that fact that I talk about where I live all the time.
Matthew, he's secret. Oh, I used your full name. I'm sorry.
Oh no. I'll have to edit that out.
Yeah, you can bleep that. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, and from all of us here, don't knock out that wall.
Don't knock out that wall. Woo!
All right. You good? I'm good.
Yeah, I'm great.
All right. Well, I will talk to you soon.
All right, man. Have
Tell
a
the
great
wife-
rest of your week.
Tell the wife yesterday.
Ditto.
Yes, sir. Later.
Bye.
Really bad idea.
Don't knock out the wall!